Hey there, brilliant people. So here we are at the end of another year. It's time to actually take a self-assessment so that we can really put the last year into perspective, set ourselves up to make the best of the year to come. So for this self-assessment, there are 15 questions that you can work through. I'm going to go through each of the questions, pause the video as you need to, obviously, but these are 15 questions that you can ask yourself, and it will give you a generally good sense of how you've done well in the year and maybe what you want to focus on more for next year. All right, so let's get into it. So the first question is, what is the best risk that you took? And why I'm saying the best risk, not the biggest risk, but the best risk, is whenever we step out of our comfort zone, which is what we need to do in order to grow, we need to take a little bit of a risk, or it certainly will always feel like a bit of a risk. And so by stepping out of our comfort zone, we actually, it will feel a bit nervy, but that is when we're really giving ourselves a really great opportunity to grow. So the best risk is the one that it really mattered to you the most. It was the one that was most in alignment with the path that you want to take. But you were stepping out of your comfort zone in the direction of your chosen path. And that is the best risk that any of us can take. So that's the first question to ask yourself about what you've been up to in the last year. So the second question is, what was the best dollar that you spent? And by, again, the best dollar is not the biggest dollar or the cheapest thing, but what was the thing that supported your life the most, that gave you the greatest value? In other words, where did you get the biggest mutually expansive exchange out of the dollar? Like, you gave good value, but you received even more than what you imagined, because that was the very best dollar that you spent. Right, and the third, because we've looked at time, we've looked at money, and we've looked at the risks that you took. The third one is, I kind of gave it away, is time. So what was the best moment that you spent? In other words, what was the best use you made of your time? Did you start a new creative process and discovered a new joy in your life? Did you make a memory that you're going to carry with you for the rest of your life? What was the best moment that you spent in the last year? So the fourth question is, how did you expand your relationship with yourself? Did you get to know yourself in a new area of life? Did you deepen the understanding you have of yourself? Did you really get to know who you are by yourself as a single person, or, without other people around you? Or alternatively, did you get to know yourself more, how you like to be in relationships with others? What was it about yourself that you learnt in this last year that really helped you to have a better relationship with yourself? So, of course, the fifth question then is, how did you expand your relationships with others? Whether that was friendships or your intimate relationships or your community. Like, how did your connections, your friendships, how did that grow? in the last year? And maybe you even want to have a look at what it is that you did to help that grow, because that might be something you want to carry on into the next year. So the sixth question is possibly a little more confronting, because the sixth question about last year is, what did you do last year that you need to stop doing? Were you eating too much chocolate? I'll put my hand up for that one. Were you drinking too much alcohol? Okay. In other words, a lot of us, it can be habits, but it could be not just physical habits like that. There could be things about the way you talk to yourself. Do you tend to give yourself a bit of a hard time? In which case, that would be a good thing to stop. Have you gotten into a relationship that's not too good for you? You might need to stop that. Or even, have you started a job that you thought was good and then unfortunately it's turned out to be not so good, like it's a bit of a toxic workplace? In which case, maybe next year you need to stop that by obviously perhaps looking for a new job. Yeah. So have a look at the thing that you have been doing in this last year that has really been dragging at your energies, dragging your spirit, dragging your mood down or your well-being down. So what is it that you would actually do better if you stopped? Okay, so the seventh question is, what did you fail to do last year that you need to start? Now, it could have been a New Year's resolution from this time last year, like something that you meant to start that you never got to start. Or it could be something that your year has actually helped you realize, oh my gosh, I would really love to do that. Or if I could only do that, it would really help me take my life, my relationship with myself, my relationship with others, my finances. It would really help me take things to the next level. And if you've had that realization or you've made the decision around something positive that you want to start that you haven't started yet, that's the seventh question. Like, what was it that you know that you need to start or want to start and you haven't done it yet? Because now obviously that's something you definitely want to carry into the new year. I don't mean the need to start it, I mean actually starting it. Right, so the eighth question is, what was the best advice that you received? Now, if you're not the sort of person that sort of tends to get a lot of advice, it could also be the best moment of help. Like, advice and help, they're things when other people, they didn't take control of your life, but they gave you some input into your life that really helped your path become more easy or graceful. So what was that? Again, it could have been just something that enabled you to change your diet. It could be something that enabled you to change the way that you were managing your finances or your relationships. What was it? And of course, you might want to think about where that came from as well. Because if we can really acknowledge those things in our lives that are giving us the most support, that's an area that we really want to carry forward. That's something that we really want to lean into. So you might want to think about, how can you, going into the new year, how can you ensure that you have more of that in your life moving forward? Okay, so number 9, bit more of a fun one. What was your biggest success? Again, the success is whatever success is for you. So it could be an emotional success, it could be a success around something in your own personal growth. It could have been a career success or a financial success or a relationship success or a health success. Like, what was your biggest success? So that is really important for you to acknowledge. Sometimes when we have a success, we sort of skip right past it. It's like we're just focused on the next thing. It's really important for us to take a moment and really acknowledge, oh my gosh, I did that. Yay for me. I really am brilliant. You're brilliant. It's your success. So you want to actually stop and acknowledge what that success was. And the next question, number 10, to really help you integrate that success is, what difference did that success make to my relationship with myself, or my understanding of myself, or what sort of person I am, or what difference did it make to my life? Like, sometimes when we have these successes, particularly if we've been working at something for a long time and maybe we weren't entirely sure that we could do it, it isn't just the success, it's the boost in our self-trust, our self-belief, our self-confidence. Those things are really important as well. So that's the 10th question to ask yourself. It's like, my success, what kind of a difference did it make to my relationship with myself? And also, what sort of difference did it make to my life? Like, because I had this success, I'll now be able to afford to do that training I've wanted to do, or I'll now be able to experience the joy of travel, which I haven't been able to do for a while, or, whatever it is. What is it that success has enabled you to do? Because that is something you've created for yourself. So it is important to acknowledge not just your success, but the consequences of your success. So that's number 10. So number 11, maybe I should have done this first. Number 11 is, what was your biggest failure then? What was it that you thought was really going to work out and it didn't? And again, how will you correct from that? I'm going to do a video on actually what failures teach us. So the thing about failure is, it's not obviously the end of the road, because the end of the road is always once you've completed it. So once you've had a success in one form or another. So if it's a failure, it means that is a process that hasn't finished in your life. So that's one of the reasons why it's important to acknowledge it, particularly this kind of time of year, because if you feel whatever it is, it's a failure, that is something that is going to go into your new year, because you need to keep working at it. And perhaps what you need to do, though, is think about what it is you were attempting to achieve and what was the purpose of it. Because sometimes one of the best ways to turn a failure into our next success is to think about the purpose of what we are attempting to do. And if there was another way that we can achieve that success, achieve that purpose, because it's the purpose that matters. It's the thing that success will enable us to do. That's what matters. So if there was another way for you to get there, that might be a better way to go. So that's number 11. So number 12, carrying on a bit of the negative review, is, what was your worst experience of last year? What was the thing that just sucked? Was it that I mean, it is that time of year. Was it that family dinner that just ended up all in tears? Was it that holiday where it just rained the whole time? What was your worst experience, and what did that teach you about yourself? Because when we have been disappointed, which is usually, let's face it, what our worst experiences are, is they usually come out of us having great expectations about something and then having a completely different experience. And how we handle that tells us a lot about ourselves. And it might actually show us, just like stress does, which of course is another thing that comes out of bad experiences, how we handle disappointment and stress. It actually can tell us a lot about, not just about ourselves, but maybe the next thing that we need to work on about ourselves. In which case, that's something that you can take into your next year, maybe. All right. So number 13, of course, what was your greatest joy? I mean, for me, this time of the year, well, particularly Christmas, I suppose, perhaps more than the New Year. But anyway, this whole time of the year, it's one of the things I love about it is that regardless of people's, faith or background, hopefully it's a time of the year when everybody gets to at least have some little moment when they are focusing on joy. Of course, the more that we work on ourselves, hopefully this means that we are increasing our capacity for joy. So when you think about what your greatest joy is, maybe even think about, well, was your greatest joy in this last year, was it bigger than the greatest joy the year before? Because that will tell you if your capacity for joy is increasing. And again, the kind of thing that gave you joy, whether it was just, watching puppies play or listening to a piece of music, or it was you actually creating something amazing. Joy, I believe, always comes from when we are most deeply connected to who we really are. So when we have those moments of joy, to me, I believe that's when we're being our truest self. So we want to really acknowledge those moments of joy, both what it is that gave us the joy and what that tells us about ourselves, because that's what you really want to lean into for now and going into the next year, and you just want to keep growing that. Okay, which is, of course, the 14th question. How did you grow in the last year? Did you get so stressed and distracted by life that you didn't get as much growth done as you'd like to? Hopefully not. Particularly if you're listening to this channel, hopefully we've given you enough skills and insights that you can find that your growth is supported and you're tapping more into your brilliance. But if you have a look at your growth, so growth for all of us, we have all these different aspects in life. We have our relationships, our finances, our health, our creativity, our mental awareness, our emotional, expansion, our physical well-being, our spiritual connections. We have all these different aspects, and they don't grow at the same level. Like at one time it might be, if you're at university or school, your mental growth might be where it's at. If you've just started a new relationship, or which, could even be a new child in the family, then your emotional growth is probably going to be where the main focus is. Or if you've started a new business, it might be on your finances, hopefully. So we tend to be sort of the different parts grow at different rates, but you want to obviously ensure that over the long term all the parts of you are growing, even if one part of you is getting ahead of the others. So it's quite important to acknowledge, as I said, how you grew in the last year. Like, how much did you grow? Which aspects of you grew? If you feel that there is a part of you that hasn't grown as much as the rest of you did, and that might mean that next year you might want to give that aspect of your life a little bit more attention. So that's question 14. So question 15, which is the last question in our self-assessment for the year, putting all that together, what are your intentions for next year? So, are you going to correct your growth? Are you going to increase your capacity for joy? Having a look at the things that you achieved last year, how are you going to continue to grow with that into the next year? So I hope that self-assessment was useful for you, and I hope it supports you in your own growth into the coming year so that you can, as always, remember that you're brilliant.